You could have at least knocked, Morrison.
Yeah, I could have. I got some good news and some bad news. Pick your poison. Which you want to hear first?
Just speak.
Bad news it is. Lady Patty's feathers are all ruffled. See, she wants to invite you to her birthday party, but your phone is disconnected.
You're a smart one, Morrison. You notice the electric and water out too?
I expected nothing less.
So what's the good news?
Oh, I got a gig, cash up front.
Cash up front. This I like. The water needs turning on and those toilets need flushing.
Water, gas, and power. Coming out of your cut. You're a real agency now.
Devil may cry.
Dante, do you have any idea how many times I've tried to call? Like a zillion. Oh my god, tonight's my birthday party. Yeah, I'm turning 18. Not a little kid.
Okay, Morrison, I'll take you up on that gig, but only if you can get me out of that hellish birthday party.
Consider your RSVP declined. Meet your new client. Listen, I'm gonna find Lady and Trish. Bring him in on this.
What? Come on, you don't think I can handle this gig on my own?
It's a big job. Big job, Dante. You're gonna need the help.
So, what's your name?
I have no name. I am but 2 days old. Just kidding. You can call me V.
Okay, V. Why don't you tell me everything about this job?
A powerful demon is about to resurrect, and we need your help, Dante.
Now that's a familiar tune. Do you have any idea how many times I've heard that exact same line?
This is special.
Special. Okay. So what's so special about this one?
This demon is your reason. Your reason for fighting.
This demon got a name?
I am amazed that they referenced the anime in this. I knew they were going to reference a lot of old stuff, but to bring up Lady Patty from the anime, ugh.
What the hell? Shoot.
Did you find it?
Oh, well, I don't know what I found, but, I think I saw some demons dancing.
Well, then I guess we keep going. The Devil's Sword Sparda is nearby.
Anywho, welcome to part 7 of Devil May Cry 5, where today we're finding out what else happened whilst Nero was climbing up the Clyfoth tree. Because although in gameplay it only took 20 minutes, in the timeline of the game it took a hell of a lot longer. How much longer? Well, about 4 missions worth. 9 all the way to the end of mission 12 is everything that happened whilst Nero was climbing the Clyfoth tree, which is baffling when you look at it in a gameplay sense, because it takes a hell of a lot longer to make that distance, but, you know, whatever. Sure. But either way, we've got the official introduction of the Behemoth, an enemy that, to be honest, I think was kind of underwhelming. But the moment you see it, you're like, okay, so this is the Juggernaut kind of enemy, the one that has a shit ton of health, takes a lot of beating, and is really slow, but maybe has like a berserker form, which it does. if you break the chains holding it down, it can go into a berserker form and start racing around like a maniac, making it more problematic depending on who you're playing as and what strategy you're going for. But to be honest, I always find it slightly underwhelming because it's introduced with V, and to be honest, V's the best equipped to deal with it because you just keep your distance. Like a lot of things with V, you just keep your distance, maybe read a book and you're fine. Like, you can set up charge attacks that it's just going to run into, like you just saw there with Griffin. I keep on going to say Griffith, and I have no idea why. I genuinely could not tell you why Griffith popped into my head first. Like, there's no reason for it. I don't know anyone called Griffith. I know there's Griffith Burns, was he, maybe he's even Griffin Burns, like the voice of Tatagia Child in Genshin. I think his name's Griffin, and it's like even then it doesn't make sense. It's just a word that keeps on popping into my head for some reason. Maybe it's a name of a past life. But yeah, because you can completely keep your distance with the Behemoth, they're kind of just bulky enemies that take a lot of damage. Look at those stylish points, by the way. 6,000 to get an S rank on the hardest difficulty. But playing on normal, we got 7,214. Keep in mind, on normal, there's less enemies, and they die a lot quicker, so you have less room to get stylish points. If you can play sort of well in this mission on DMD, that you get like 9,000 stylish points out of that encounter, which will carry you through the rest of the mission if you play poorly, because it will average out at least still around 5,000, and without dying you'll get the 1.2 times bonus, which will put you above 6,000, getting you the S rank anyway. So I'm just dealing with these guys. Anyway, this is a small encounter, so that should only hurt a stylish rank severely, right? Still 6,357. And I want you to keep all these in mind when we eventually start getting to those missions I keep talking about that I think are really dreadful with their stylish points, at how little they give us. But starting next part, we will be starting our start playing as our third character and accessing our third difficulty. I've mentioned it before, and I will always mention it, and it's even in the description of the playlist. But Dante will be played on Son of Sparda, which is basically hard mode, but not the hardest. Like, Dante Must Die is the hardest. And that's ultimately because I'm decent as Dante. Like, I can go through Bloody Palace as Dante without Super Dante and win. But I'm not consistent like I feel like I am with Nero. With Nero, I feel like I've got enough of a consistency on the hardest difficulty that I can crack on it. Whilst with Dante, hopefully some of you guys watching will understand what I mean, especially if you do play Dante a lot. I have days where I play exceptionally well, everything I want to do works out perfectly, and I have a blast with Dante even on the hardest difficulty, and nothing can stop me. But then I have other difficulties where nothing fucking works, and I just get my shit kicked in, and I really don't enjoy that day with Dante. And because I ultimately don't know what I'm gonna be like, whether I'm gonna die a bunch, if at all, if I'm gonna die loads, if it's gonna like have perfect encounters, if a lot of really wacky hijinks are gonna come up, I would rather just play it more safe and play it on hard than take that risk of playing on DMD and doubling the length of this Let's Play, since I want to keep in, unless I die like 10 times to the same thing, I want to keep in every death. And so far I've only died once, and you saw that. It was in Mission 7, where these guys were messing me up. Which is also worth mentioning, you've probably already seen it, but on DMD these guys have a crap ton of health. Fighting them with V, same thing. But there's also a thing, and I don't know how true it is, it's just how it feels, but it feels like some enemies are smart enough to realise V's the puppet master, and some enemies will just never work that out. The Angelos always seem aware that V is the puppet master, but they always just beeline for you, at least when I'm playing. They'll only usually go for one of your allies, or one of your minions, if they're like right in front of them and in the way. Like, if you've got Griffin right in their face, they will just smack them. Also, so you have to forgive me throughout a lot of this video. I don't know what's going on in my throat, but it's not playing ball today. It's very harsh. It's not dry, and it's not. I'm not like unwell or anything. It's just like I can hear myself as I talk. It's just a bit harsher than normal. Like, I've got like a twang in my throat, but it's not anything. Like, it's not like it's dry. It's not that I'm unwell or anything. It's just like a gravel in my throat that won't leave. Hopefully it will sort itself out as I go, as I just keep talking. But we've got more encounters, and like, I guess now is as good a time as any to start trying to reiterate my point on V, because this is like, although it's not his last actual mission, it's his last proper mission, because this last actual mission is just rematching old bosses. This is the last one where it's like normal encounters, a level to really, you know, progress through, and it feels like there's an effort made here with everything going on. Like, this is the last real notice of it. So, like, with V, like, in a similar vein to how one day, and I know I say it all the time, but one day eventually I'll go back to Devil May Cry 4 and go through it on Dante Must Die, because I know I can do it, just in the same vein as now with Dante, I was then with Virgil in DMC4, where I just wasn't confident I could do a Dante Must Die run. One day I will go back and do that Dante Must Die run for funsies. Maybe one day, in a similar vein, I will come back and try and spend more time learning V to get better at him. But the point I have always made is that you can't expect someone to go out of their way to try and learn all the intricacies and hardcore pieces of a character if they don't enjoy the baseline. But I get it when, like, because you see it all the time, and I can imagine some of your favourite YouTubers outside of anyone really, regardless of where you go, you've seen a few YouTubers like it, where they just don't even bother to try and learn the basics, then afterwards bitch about it, and you just sit there and you go, well, you didn't try anything, you didn't follow anything of the baselines the game wanted you to use to try and get a feel for the character or gameplay style or anything. You just ran in, ignored everything, and hoped that the game would play itself. So when it didn't, you got annoyed at it. And I get that annoyance, but throwing that same kind of annoyance at someone who actually did follow the basics, has made an effort to learn it, and just didn't enjoy it anyway, is a pointless argument. Because if they don't enjoy the baseline, if they don't enjoy the minimal that they start with, that is given to these of that, you don't give you don't give people the reason to then learn everything, to learn the intricacies. The reason why people love playing as Dante, especially in 4, is because he's such a fun character on his own before you start learning all the intricacies. And then the moment you start going into it and you realize just how impossibly high the skill ceiling is, you just go for it. You just commit to whatever you're doing and live your life, and you enjoy it for it. When you go super aggressive with Nero, it's great fun, so you start learning more of the intricacies to be even more aggressive and get away with it. And then you go to DMC5 and you get things like Air Taunt, and you just get to like, you just get to go apeshit. Yeah. But it's in the same vein as, like, and I say this as someone who likes Final Fantasy 13. Like, Final Fantasy 13 is like this a good 60 or so hour long game, yet only the last 20 hours or so is any good. So you're not gonna tell people to just go through the first 40. I promise it gets good, because if they don't enjoy the first couple hours, they're not gonna bother with the extra 38 hours to get to the last good 20. It's just not happening. The only reason I did it is because I've finished every single Final Fantasy, regardless of how much I like or dislike them, so I can try and give a fair analysis from beginning to end. It's why I'm so harsh on Final Fantasy 2, because that game is a pain in the arse to grind through early on, and then once you finally commit to the grind and get it done, the game's difficulty falls apart later on, so there's no balance with it. Making it an extremely boring grind fest for the first half of the game, and an extremely boring everything dies in one hit fest in the second half of the game. Oh well, I got a counter? Okay, sweet. Wasn't expecting to get a counter with V. This specific encounter, actually, I want to talk about it for a split second, is in my original Dante Must Die run through back in base DMC5. I remember this encounter very well because it's got two of the Proto-Angelos in it, as well as the Death Scissors, and it's just all of them together. All of them seem to target V at that time anyway, and it was just hell. And I remember dying a bunch, and as I've said many times before, if I die in a mission in DMC, I restart the mission. I don't do a checkpoint or gold orb, because it's just not my thing. Even as V, when I was doing Dante Must Die, as much as I didn't enjoy him, I was like, at least going to find a way to conquer the mission and feel like I've actually beat it, and not just fed myself through it. especially in DMC5 where you can carry a seemingly infinite number of gold orbs. Because I think it's something they should have limited on. Like, they could have made it so like, oh, you have, say, 36 in your inventory, but you can only take 3 with you on a mission. Something like that, just so it pulls it back a little bit. Because in the older Devil May Cry's, it was your hard limit with gold orbs that you could only have 3. The only time it wasn't a limit was with the yellow orbs back in 1 and 3. I can't remember if they're in 2. I think it's yellow orbs in 2 as well, where they let you have a limited amount because they were checkpoints, not instant revives. Oh, but we got another Nico scene, and this one's actually my favourite, like, Nico cool scene in the game. But since we've got a couple minutes before the next cutscene, the last thing I want to talk about is, because this is special edition, Turbo Mode. Turbo Mode was finally brought back in DMC5 with Special Edition officially, although modders did it ages ago, but whatever. And although I'm not playing in Turbo Mode, I always appreciate the option being there. The reason why I don't is because it messes with all my timings. I've learned all the characters' timings on normal, so going to Turbo Mode has always just thrown me off a little bit. So I'd rather just stick to this and enjoy it at this pace. But I love seeing people play it in Turbo. Some of the antics people can get up to in any Devil May Cry is always a sight to behold. But when you see him do it lightning fast as well, like, holy shit. Like, it's always so cool to see. I love watching. Like, I used to watch a lot of Donguri, like in DMC4 days, but nowadays I watch a lot of Mills instead because he does a lot of environmental combos. And I think they just look cooler. Even if they're really... like, they probably take a long time to think out and plan out. They just look nice. They just look cool to see him, like, incorporate an exploding van into a combo or something.
Whoa, this is some kind of ritual shindig, isn't it? You guys got the dance fever for Sparda, don't you? Whoa, easy on the dance floor there, partner.
I'll be taking that back. You know your endless worshipping isn't making the Sparda any happier.
Alright, time for another boss fight that isn't really a boss fight. The 3 nobodies, which nobodies are a returning enemy from Devil May Cry 1. Which was interesting to see them. When they popped up, I was like, these guys are all enemies to come back from DMC 1? Huh. Like, I think everyone, if there was going to be enemies that were going to come back from DMC 1 again, everyone probably would have just assumed they would do the same thing they did in DMC 4. Like, bring back the Frosts. The Frosts I always thought were a nice and interesting enemy, and they were just chunky enough to be fun to fight, whilst at the same time not taking forever like things like the Blitz. So they were always just an enjoyable fight to have. At least they don't bring back those bloody blades. The Chimera blades. You know, when they just attach stuff and it's like you'll be mid-comboing them and they just start happy slapping around them. Like, at least those guys aren't back. I would have been very annoyed if those guys of all enemies came back. Or like the little warp things that popped up underneath you, and I think it was like mission 14. Like when you return to the jungle. It's either 14 or 15, but I want to say 14. Like the little things that will just nab you and warp you elsewhere. Like, I'm glad those guys didn't come back, because that was stupid as well. Like, the enemy design, the enemy's variety as a whole, I think is pretty good. Like, I feel like they get a bit samey with some of the designs, but as a whole, I think they're pretty good.
It seems this sword is still too strong for me.
So close, though. So close. You got a lot of heart, kid. You really do. But you're a bit of a sissy in the strength department. Hey, no offense, sir. You know.
That kid Nero, he has the strength.
It speaks.
Dante.
I don't even have the words. He's alive! He's alive!
The Devil's Sword Sparda was concealing Dante's presence.
How does one friggin' guy have so much luck, huh? V? No. Get a grip on yourself now, come on.
If only you could defeat Urizen. If only... No.
V, no.
If only you never existed. Then I...
Don't do it, V. No!
And on that note, V's going to get backseated for a good number of missions. So next time on Devil May Cry 5, we finally saved Dante. So we're going to finally hear his side of the story of everything that's happened. But until then, you guys take care now.